Most people quit their jobs because they're stressed or burned out. But these people quit because something wasn't right, and it only got worse the longer they stayed. These are 3 real stories from people who didn't just quit their jobs. They walked out and never came back. And once you hear why, you'll understand. I used to work the closing shift at a small insurance office. It wasn't anything fancy, just a quiet building with beige walls, flickering fluorescent lights, and that constant, low hum of computers that never really shut off. Most people left around 5. I stayed until 9. At first, I liked it. No distractions, no coworkers, just me, my desk, and the sound of typing echoing through the empty office. Or at least, I thought I was alone. About a week into the job, I started noticing small things. Chairs would be slightly pulled out when I came back from the restroom. A cabinet I knew I had closed would be cracked open. Nothing dramatic, just off. I blamed myself until one night, around 8:30, I heard someone cough. Not from outside, not from the hallway, from inside the office. I froze. The sound came from the row of cubicles behind me, the ones no one had used in months. I sat there listening, just silence. I told myself it was the building settling, or maybe sound carrying from another suite. But I didn't check. I just packed up early and left. The next night, I tried to ignore it. I put in headphones, turned up music, and focused on work. That's when I saw movement in the reflection of my monitor. Someone walking behind me. Slow, deliberate. I spun around instantly. There was no one there, but one of the chairs was spinning, like it had just been pushed. That was the first time I actually felt afraid. I grabbed my stuff and left without finishing my shift. The next day, I mentioned it to my manager. He didn't laugh. He didn't even look surprised. He just said, "Yeah, some people don't like closing alone." That was it. No explanation, no reassurance, just that. I asked him what he meant. He hesitated, then said the previous night clerk had quit without notice, just stopped showing up. When they called to check on him, he said he kept hearing someone in the office after hours, someone who didn't leave. I wish I had quit right then, but I didn't. I needed the money, though I kept working nights, and things got worse. One night I heard typing, fast and aggressive, coming from a desk across the room. I slowly stood up and walked toward it. Each step felt heavier than the last. The monitor at that desk was on. I hadn't turned it on, and on the screen was a document. Words were appearing, one letter at a time, like someone was typing, but no one was there. I watched as a sentence finished forming, then another. I couldn't breathe, because the words weren't random. They were describing me, my clothes, where I was standing, what I was doing. And then it typed, "Don't turn around." I ran. I didn't grab my bag. I didn't turn off the lights. I just ran straight out of the building. The next morning, I went back with my manager to grab my things. Everything looked normal. The computer was off. The office was quiet. But my bag wasn't where I left it. It was sitting on my desk, perfectly placed, like someone had moved it. I quit that day. No notice, no explanation. And to this day, I still wonder who or what was working the night shift with me. used to work as a delivery driver for a local restaurant. Late nights, mostly. The kind of job where you're driving through empty streets, dropping off food to people you never see again. It was usually uneventful until one order changed everything. It came in just before closing. The address was a little outside our normal delivery zone, but the manager approved it anyway, said it was good money. When I looked at the ticket, something felt off. No phone number, just a name I didn't recognize, and a handwritten note. Leave at the door, do not knock. Weird, but not unheard of. So I took it. The drive there was longer than usual. Streetlights got fewer and farther between. Houses turned into isolated properties, spaced out with long, dark driveways. Eventually, my GPS said I had arrived, but there was no house, just a narrow dirt road leading into the woods. I double-checked the address. It matched. I should have turned around, but I didn't. I told myself maybe the house was further in. So I drove down the dirt road. Trees closed in on both sides. My headlights barely cut through the darkness. After about a minute, I saw it. A house, if you could even call it that. It looked abandoned. Paint peeling, windows dark, no lights anywhere. I sat in my car for a minute, debating. Then I remembered the note. Leave at the door. So I grabbed the food and walked up. Every step felt wrong, like I wasn't supposed to be there. I set the bag down on the porch, turned to leave, and that's when I heard it. A voice from inside the house, soft and barely audible. Wait, I froze. I hadn't knocked. I hadn't made any noise. There shouldn't have been any way they knew I was there. I slowly turned back toward the door. It was still closed. Then the handle moved, just slightly, like someone was about to open it. I stepped back instinctively. The voice came again, closer this time. Please don't go. Something in the tone made my skin crawl. It didn't sound desperate. It sounded wrong, like someone pretending to be desperate. I didn't respond. I just backed away, slowly at first, then faster, until I was practically running to my car. As I got in, I looked back at the house. The door was open now, just a crack, and I could see someone standing inside. But they weren't coming out. They were just watching. I drove off as fast as I could, didn't look back again. When I got back to the restaurant, I told my manager what happened. He went pale. Then he asked me something I'll never forget. Did you go down a dirt road? I said yes. He shook his head, said that address had been blacklisted years ago because drivers kept reporting the same thing. An abandoned house, a voice inside, and someone watching from the doorway. I asked him why we still had the address in the system. He didn't have an answer, so I quit that night, didn't even finish my shift. And to this day, I still think about that voice because it didn't sound angry or threatening. It sounded like it was trying to get me to come inside, and I don't think I would have come back out. I worked as a night assistant at a small private care facility. It wasn't a hospital, more like a place for long-term patients who needed constant monitoring. Most of them were elderly. Some had memory issues. Others had conditions no one really talked about. I worked the overnight shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., the quiet hours, or at least they were supposed to be. There was one room, we were told, not to enter unless absolutely necessary. Room 12. No one ever explained why. They just said the patient inside required minimal interaction, which I thought was strange. Isn't that the opposite of care? For the first few weeks, I ignored it. I did my rounds, checked vitals, documented everything, and I stayed out of room 12 until one night, around 3 a.m., I heard something from inside. A thump, then another, like something hitting the wall. I checked the chart. The patient was supposed to be bedridden, so I went to the door, knocked softly. No response, but the noises continued. Thumpy, thumpy, thumpy. I hesitated, then slowly opened the door. The room was dark, only a small lamp in the corner. The bed was empty. My stomach dropped because the chart clearly said the patient couldn't walk. Then I heard breathing behind me. I turned around slowly, and there he was, standing in the corner of the room, watching me. I hadn't heard him move, hadn't heard footsteps, nothing at all. He was just suddenly there. His eyes looked wrong, not unfocused, not confused, just aware, a little too aware. I asked if he needed help. He didn't answer. He just tilted his head slightly, like he was studying me. Then he smiled, and it wasn't a normal smile. It stretched too wide. I felt this overwhelming urge to leave. So I did. I backed out of the room and closed the door. My hands were shaking. The rest of the night, I stayed at the nurse's station. I didn't go back. The next morning, I told the supervisor everything. She listened quietly, then asked me one question. Did he speak to you? I said no. She nodded, like that was a good thing. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. He only speaks when he chooses someone. I asked what she meant. She didn't elaborate, just told me to avoid room 12, unless absolutely necessary. I didn't last much longer after that. But before I quit, one more thing happened. On my final night, I was doing my last round. As I passed room 12, I heard my name, clear as day, coming from inside. I stopped. Every instinct told me to keep walking, but I didn't. I looked at the door, and slowly, the handle started to turn. I didn't wait to see what was on the other side. I ran away, clocked out early, and never went back. I quit the next day. No notice, no explanation, because whatever was in room 12 knew my name, and I don't think it learned it from a chart. If you made it this far, you already know these weren't just normal stories. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to True Terra so you don't miss what's coming next. I post new videos Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. And if one of these stories stuck with you or gave you that uneasy feeling, let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Until then, stay safe.